Welcome back, everybody, to day 4 of learning SQL. So here we are on assessment test 3 of our SQL Udemy course. This assessment test is a little bit different. It's just essentially giving us a task with some requirements that we need to go ahead and execute and get done. So let's take a look at what we have here. So assessment test 3 is asking us to create a new database called school, capital S. This database should have 2 tables, teachers and students. The student table should have columns for student ID, first name, last name, homeroom number, phone, email, and graduation year. And the teachers table should have columns for teacher ID, first name, last name, homeroom number, department, email, and phone. Now it tells us that the constraints are mostly up to our discretion, but the table constraints do have to consider the following. So we do have some requirements from the person asking us to make this table. Number 1, we must have a phone number to contact students in case of an emergency. So we need to make sure that our students table has a non-null constraint for the phone number. And number 2, we must have IDs as the primary key of the tables. That's no problem. We just need to make sure that we use the correct constraints and the data type for our keys. And number 3, the phone numbers and emails must be unique to the individual. Now this is interesting to me because what if we have 2 siblings in the same class and maybe they have the same contact phone number and email for a parent for their particular students, right? So this kind of raises a red flag for me in terms of we need to get some more clarification on that. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and follow the requirements that they've given to us and build it the way that they asked. So let's go ahead and get into this and start over here in PG Admin. So here in PG Admin, we're going to start out first by creating a new database called school with a capital S. And we're going to open up here our schemas. We're going to go public, and I'm just going to go and open the tables drop down here, even though we have nothing yet. And we're going to open the query tool and make sure that we're in school here, which we are. So the first thing that we're going to create is the students table. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this just so I know everything that we're looking at. And we're going to start out with the student ID. And the table is called students with an S, lowercase s. So we're going to go create table students. And we're going to go ahead and move this down. And we're going to start filling out the different columns. So the first thing that we have is student ID. And if we take a look here at the instructions, you can see that they actually have a format to the names. They want us to do student _ ID. But if you take a look at the last one here, graduation year, there's no underscore here. So I'm going to assume that we can shorten this and just use grad _ year. But let's go ahead and we'll wait till we get to that. So student ID. So for student ID, this is going to be the ID for each student within the table. So because of that, we're going to use the serial data type. This is going to be ordered numeric. And every time we put a new entry into the table, it's automatically going to create the next numerical value in the sequence. So that's going to be serial. And then we're going to use the primary key data type, or excuse me, constraint. The primary key constraint is going to make sure that 1, it's not null, and 2, that it's unique, right? Because we can't have the same student ID. So let's go ahead. That's going to be our student ID. Then we're going to have first name, first _ name, whoops, first _ name. And for first name, we're going to use varchar, and I'm going to say 50. That seems reasonable. And for the first name, I'm going to make sure that the students in this table definitely have a first name and last name. So I'm going to say not null. Now, we don't want to say unique because maybe multiple students could have the same first name. So we're not going to use the unique constraint here. And we have to keep in mind that we're using varchar here because if we were just to use char, we would take up that entire allocated space, and we would pull all of that memory, even though the string wouldn't fill that entire space. But by using varchar, it's only going to use the memory needed for the length of the string for that particular value. So we're going to be using that for multiple things. We're also going to do last name here. Same thing, varchar, we're going to say 50. And we're gonna want a last name as well, so we're going to say not null. Let's go back to our instructions here. Next up, we have homeroom number. Okay, so we're going to say homeroom underscore number. Now for homeroom number, and I actually pulled this up ahead of time. Let's see, go ahead and exit full screen here. If you take a look at this is PostgreSQL's documentation. These are the different numeric types that we can use. And we always want to be conscious of the storage size and the data type that we're using because we want to make the smallest footprint possible. And so we're going to take a look here. We're going to assume that the room numbers are somewhere between like 1 and 1,000. And so small int will work perfect here. This is the smallest numeric data type that we have here in the table. And it goes all the way up to 32,767. That's more than enough. So we're going to go back here. Let's open up our instructions once again, go full screen. And the homeroom number, we're going to use data type small int. And for this particular column, we're not going to say not null because maybe a student doesn't have a homeroom number yet. And we're also not going to say unique because students can definitely be in the same homeroom or have the same homeroom number. So we're just going to say small int with no constraints. Next up, we have the phone number and email. And if we go back to our requirements here, it says must have a phone number, and both the email and the phone number have to be unique. So phone number is a non-null and both are unique. So go back, phone, email. So let's go here. So phone, we're gonna say varchar, and I'm gonna say usually phone numbers are 10 digits, but we're gonna give a little bit extra here just in case there's some type of extensions or something. And keep in mind, we are using varchar here and not some type of integer because phone numbers can start with things like zeros or something like that potentially, and that can do some really, really weird things. We're not doing any kind of mathematical operations with the phone numbers, so we definitely want to make sure that this is a character, not some type of integer. And for the phone number, we said it is required, so it's not null, and actually, so it is unique and required. So unique, not null. And the email, email, varchar, and the length for that, we're going to go ahead and say 150. And for this, it has to be unique, but it didn't say that they have to have an email, so we'll go ahead and leave that as just unique. Let's go ahead and go back here. Last but not least, graduation year. So we're going to say grad underscore year. And I'm going to say that that can be an integer. We can say small int. And the reason I'm choosing small int for this, my thought process is that maybe we want to use the year that they graduate to somehow later on calculate how many years they've been at the school. When they graduated or when they potential to graduate. And that would be something where we actually need to do a mathematical calculation. So I think small int would be perfect for that. And there is no requirement that this has to be in there, and it definitely does not need to be unique. So let's go ahead and go through here, just double check. We have our students table, student ID, serial primary key, first name, last name, homeroom number, phone, email, grad year. We have to make sure that the phone is unique and not null, and that the email is unique as well. So this all looks really good. So let's go ahead and run this. And we have a small syntax error because we forgot a comma. Let's run this again. And there we go. So the table has been created. I'm going to go ahead and copy this because it's going to be very similar to the next table that we're going to be making. But first, I just want to go ahead and select everything from the students table and run this query. And let's just take a look at the columns here. So you can see we have our primary key here for student ID, first name, last name, homeroom number, phone, email, and grad year. So that looks great. Let's go ahead and paste in this create table. And let's go ahead and edit it for the teachers. So we're going to go ahead and put teachers here. And let's go ahead and check it out. So teachers, we have teacher ID, first name, last name, homeroom number. So this should all match up, except for we want to change this to teacher ID. And for the teacher ID, we are definitely going to want the primary key to be the same. We're going to say that we definitely want a first name and last name for the teacher. We're going to make that decision. And the homeroom number can also be small int. It does not need to be unique or not null because maybe a teacher doesn't have a homeroom number. And then the phone is definitely going to be unique, not null. and the email, we're going to say that the email is going to be not null as well. Maybe, every teacher that goes into a school, there should be an email created. So we're just going to go ahead and say that that's going to be not null as well. And then let's go back here because there's one column that's different. So let's highlight here. Homeroom number. Okay, so after homeroom number, we're going to have department, and then we're not going to have graduation year. So let's go back here. Let's get rid of graduation year. After homeroom number, we're going to have department. And in department, we're going to say that this is going to be varchar, and we're going to say 100. And for this, the department's definitely not going to be unique because different teachers could be a part of the same department. And we're not going to say not null either because maybe a teacher is not assigned to a department yet. So let's just double check here. We have teachers, teacher ID, first name, last name, homeroom number, department, phone, email. Let's go back here to the requirements. Teacher ID, first name, last name, homeroom, department, email, and phone. Okay, so this all looks good. So let's go ahead and run this table. Just one last check here. Let's go ahead and run this table. And we have a syntax error because we have a comma here. No problem. Go ahead and get rid of that. Run it again, and the table has been created. So let's go ahead and select everything from the teacher's table. And you can see here we have teacher ID, first name, last name, homeroom number, department, phone, and email. Perfect. Okay, now with all of this, next we can go ahead and move on to inserting some values into the table. So once you've made the tables, insert a student named Mark Watney, student ID 1, who has a phone number with all the following information. So let's go ahead and take this information and put it into a query. So we're going to say insert into, and the table name is going to be students. And if we're getting familiar with these, we can go ahead and refresh this. Table students. And from here, we can go ahead and define the different columns that we're going to be putting in. So to do this, I'm going to do this first. Pull this up so we have all the columns here at the bottom. And then we'll go ahead and go back. Okay. Insert into students. Now keep in mind, we don't need to specify student ID. That's automatically going to populate itself because of the data type. So we're going to have first name. We're going to have last name. We're going to have homeroom number, and let's just double check. And let me highlight this. So he does have a homeroom number. He does not have an email and graduates. Okay, so the only thing he doesn't have is an email. So first name, last name, homeroom underscore number. He has a phone number, no email, and a grad year. So homeroom number, he has a phone number, no email, and he has a grad year. First name, last name, homeroom number, phone, grad year. Okay, so he has a phone number, doesn't have an email, grad year, and a homeroom number. Okay, and let's go ahead and say values. We can go ahead and specify the values that we're going to be inserting. Now I know that this setup here, I'm doing this format, so it's a little bit more readable, especially if we had a lot more columns. This could be kind of squinched together to make it a little bit more space efficient, but I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. So for our values, I'm going to go ahead and specify here, the different values that we're going to be entering. So the first name is going to be Mark Watney. So first name is going to be Mark, Mark, comma, and then last name is Watney. Scroll down here. And next up, we're going to have the homeroom number, which was 5. The homeroom is going to be an integer. And the phone number, which we'll go back here and find, which was this here. So we'll go ahead and just copy this. phone number is going to be a variable, or excuse me, a string. And go back here, which the next one is going to be the grad year. So let's go back. Graduates in 2035 and has a homeroom number of 5. So we already have the homeroom number, and then we're going to say 2035, which is a integer, small integer. So we'll go ahead and close the parentheses here, which is all good. So let's go ahead and run this query. And there is a bit of an error here because we forgot a comma. No problem. And I'm actually going to fix this. I don't like the way this looks. So I think this will look better and be a lot easier to read if I just do it the following way. I'm going to go back on what I said. I think this actually is going to look cleaner. Can never be afraid to have to go back. Okay. And we're going to do the same here because I think this just makes more sense. Okay, so insert into the students table. First name, last name, homeroom number, phone, grad year. We have first name Mark, last name Watney, homeroom number 5, phone number here, grad year 2035, and the email is not going to be there. So let's go ahead and run this. And we have another error here. It's integer at or near a value. What error do we have here? Let's see here. Values. Sorry about that. Run this. There we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and select everything from students. Run this. And we have student ID 1, Mark Watney, with the homeroom number of 5, his phone number, his email, which is null because it was not specified, and grad year 2035. Okay, that was a little rough. But let's go ahead and do it one more time for the next entry. So the next entry here is for a teacher. So Salk, teacher ID 1, who has a homeroom number of 5. He's in the biology department. And okay, so let's go ahead and go back. Insert into, the table name is teachers. And we're going to do the same formatting as before. And before I do this, let's go ahead and copy this all. Select star teachers so we can go ahead and see the column names for reference. Okay, insert into teachers. We're going to have the first name, the last name, the homeroom number, department, the phone number, which I believe he has in here. Yes, and the email. So we have everything for this particular teacher. The department, the phone number, and the email. Okay. We're going to say insert, we're going to say values. We're going to go ahead and define the values that we're going to put in here. So we are going to say the first name, Jonas Salk. So string Jonas, comma, Salk, comma, and go back here. Homeroom number of 5 and biology department. So homeroom is going to be integer 5, and the department is going to be biology. Go back. His contact info. So I'm going to copy his email address here. Comma. So this is going to be, his email is actually going to be last. We'll go ahead and put it in here. Biology department. And then we have the phone number, which we'll go ahead and specify here, which is right here. Take out the period. Boom. Okay. So we have first name Jonas, last name Salk, homeroom number 5 with the biology department, a phone number, and an email. So those are the values that we're going to go ahead and insert. Let's run it. It looks like it's successful. Let's select all from teachers and take a look here. Teacher ID 1, Jonas, Salk, homeroom number 5, biology, phone number, and email. And this follows all the constraints that we have set. So that is assessment test 3. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for number 5 as we continue to learn some SQL. Thanks for watching.